Hello, Monetization Nation. Today I'm joined by Gordon Glenister. Gordon is the author of Influencer Marketing Strategy. Sounds like a cool book title that we would absolutely love to read. He's also the host of the Influence the Global podcast on influencer marketing and the chair and founder of Influence the division of the Branded Content Marketing Association. He's also the co-founder of the Top 100 Most Influential People Index. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Gordon.
No, it's a pleasure to be with you today, Nathan.
Can you start off by sharing with us something that you are super passionate about?
Well, I'm super passionate about influence. I've always wanted to be, ironically, in this sort of space and promoting and supporting other people. I've loved it, to be honest, ever since I was as a child. And one of the since I've been in this sector, because prior to being involved in the influencer marketing sector, I was very much involved in the merchandise or swag industry for a big part of my life. And what I've been absolutely fascinated by is to see the growth of this industry that I'm now very much part of, and how it has really embodied a lot of younger people. I mean, people of half my age. I look at some of the content creation and I just love it. I'm amazed by the video, the TikTok, Instagram, and how it's just blows me away. So I'm absolutely passionate about influence.
I love it. In your work with influence, what is the greatest home run that you've hit so far?
Well, you've mentioned it already. I think being able to write a book, and when actually, I have to say, I'd only entered the industry for the first time 6 months prior. So I didn't have a long track record, somebody that's come from running a trade association for 11 years and then literally pitching an idea to a publisher at a marketing event, actually just asking them initially, do you have a book on influencer marketing? And they said no. And I said, well, I'm actually the founder of the Branded Content Marketing Association division, influence division rather, and I thought, well, potentially, could this be of interest to you if I was to write this book, having never written a book before in my life? So I wrote a short synopsis of what I thought the book was going to be all about, and bearing in mind, if I write it for me, almost like an idiot's guide to, I thought, that would be a great start. Anyway, I went and saw the editor, and they kindly said, yeah. I think they realized that not only was I a writer in terms of blogs and stuff like that, but I was in a really good position within the association network, and I had opportunities to speak at events. So they probably realized not only could I write the book, but I'd got a good way of promoting it as well. And it has been a great success, actually.
Congratulations. And we're grateful that you're here on the show today to share some of your expertise from that with us. What's the biggest failure or mistake that you've had so far in your career? And what did you learn from it?
Well, I think if there's many entrepreneurs that are listening to this, I have a classic shiny new toy syndrome. I mean, it really is. And I'm involved in multiple products. I've got a sustainable clothing brand. I'm helping launch a new rum brand. I'm the founder of numerous trade associations that I've built from scratch. I run strategic workshops, just loads of different things. But I think probably it has spread a lot of my time and resource. But somebody said to me once, if you want a job done, give it to a busy person. And I think I probably labeled myself as that busy person. But I think what somebody said to me once, a very good friend of mine, says, do what you do best, i.e. be a master of one, rather than a jack of all trades. And I've really taken that on board. So I use a lot of outsourced support, particularly since I've started in my own journey a few years ago, and that's been phenomenal. So even sort of the Upwork, these online and Fiverr and places like that, I've got a fantastic graphic designer who provides content for me in the space of 24 hours. So rather than learning about certain things, I just don't want to do that. I want to be really good at what I do best and outsource the rest.
Let's talk about this work you've done with these trade shows for a minute. I think we're at a really interesting transition point with associations and trade organizations, where historically they've provided a lot of value with lobbying and legislation and things like that, and events. And it seems like a lot of those organizations are making a transition to digital. Mm-hmm. It seems like a lot of them were even slow in making that transition. And a lot of them are now offering membership sites to their members. And I think there's great opportunities for entrepreneurs to go out, find a niche, and create a membership site under the name of an association, and almost go into a brand new niche and create a brand new association in your niche with a membership site. And the reason I think it's so important is because I think it's one of the best ways to provide a recurring revenue stream today. Do you want to talk a little bit about that transition of these trade organizations to providing membership sites and recurring revenue streams online?
Well, one of the things that's been, I mean, just from the trade association point of view, I used to run a trade association for 11 years as the chief exec. And one of the, you're right in the sense that many trade associations have found that their value proposition has been waning because people have been able to search for content online and all sorts of other online communities like Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups. So much free content out there. So these organizations have really needed to up their game and provide constant value to their members. And of course, one of the things that's come out of the pandemic is we've now become almost like a global. We've been in touch with, particularly when you're looking at events online now, of course, we now can connect with associations all around the world. Whereas if it was a physical event, for example, people would have to go to a hotel or a location to meet other people. Well, now some of the conferences have had record levels of people attend those events, which has been phenomenal. And just to add to your point about memberships, online memberships. I mean, look at what's happened with Netflix, for example. It's been absolutely phenomenal over the pandemic because, in fact, I think they grew another 16 million subscribers in just 2 or 3 months of last year. And of course, Disney Plus, we were just talking about that before, weren't we? Yeah. Was phenomenal.
Probably the only profitable thing Disney had going last year during the pandemic was their online subscription. Yeah.
Well, subscription overall is growing through the roof, and particularly subscription box businesses that definitely provide reoccurring revenue. I mean, one of the things that's really fascinating about this growth is people want to feel part of a community. I always think if you buy something from a website, it seems very transactional. Whereas actually you create a membership, you create a community. And what you can do is provide all sorts of benefits alongside that, where maybe it's 10% off for that particular product line, or they get early access to something that they otherwise wouldn't have had. And maybe there's an opportunity for other members then to meet each other, which you wouldn't normally get if you were merely a customer transaction. I mean, for example, in terms of an online community, Lego has over 4 million members in its Lego club community, and the vast majority of them are not 10 to 11-year-old children. They are 40 to 50-year-old men who love making amazing Lego structures.
Okay, how did you know that about me? Did you know I actually collect Star Wars Legos? I have a whole bunch of Star Wars Legos, and I've been a fan ever since I was a kid. I'm not part of the Lego community, but I do love Legos.
Yeah. So I mean, definitely big growth in membership, but it is all to do with this opportunity to package up different products and services in such a way that you create a membership. I always say people come for content, but they stay for community.
Can you think of an association that's done a really good job of making this digital transformation, both to a digital membership site to provide value and to a digital like a virtual summit where they've been able to provide value to people who can't come to their physical events?
Well, actually, the Chartered Institute of Marketing, which is a huge organisation in the UK, a lot of their revenue not just comes from membership, but comes from learning, and they have got this fantastic facility in England, which is a hotel, it's a training centre. Well, during much of last year, they couldn't run any events, and they'd always been talking about providing, online learning. And of course, the other thing that's most important is they needed to have online invigilation as well, because how were they going to do that? How were they going to mark people? And they've been talking about this for no less than 11 years, about having an online platform, online invigilation. The pandemic came along, they did it in 6 months or 3 months. I think it's 3 months, actually. Record
That's one
levels.
of the greatest benefits of the pandemic is forcing the acceleration of the move to these digital strategies that we knew we needed to do, and just kind of made us do it.
So that's one of the big growth area is online education amongst trade associations in particular, because it's often been their USP. In fact, I was speaking to the Chartered Institute of Patent Attorneys, and by the way, there's an association for pretty much anything and everything, however obscure. I was speaking to him recently, and he was saying for his conferences, for example, he was now able to have some of the best speakers in the world in the field. And although the cost of the conference was significantly lower, they were able to not have to fly these speakers in and spend huge amounts of money paying for them, because they were sitting in their room in Australia or America or Europe or whatever. And they were only coming on for their sort of half an hour slot. Whereas before, they'd have to fly them into London, put them up in a hotel, pay a speaker fee, and all of that had to be replicated in the delegate price. So, of course, that's what's... And he was also saying to me is that we've doubled the number of delegates. Even though the delegate price has dropped, we've been able to do that. And now some of these associations are now looking at franchising their model into different parts of the country, different parts of the world. That really fascinates me. So you've got one association that tend to be very America or UK based, and you're thinking, if you've got a really great niche as you call it, why could you not translate that into different divisions around the world?
Yeah, I love that. I've been so I call this concept cool hunting, where you find something that does really well in one geographic area and then you replicate it in another niche.
Exactly.
For example, I've done a lot of that in Brazil. I've helped start 4 different businesses in Brazil. You take something that's been wildly successful in the US and just do the same thing in Brazil with a completely different market. And it's a very successful business model. What is your best monetization secret or strategy?
I think as I would see myself as very much a thought leader, and largely around the membership and influencer marketing space. So one of the things that I do is produce guides, research papers. So I've done 2 more recently. One was a COVID impact report, and the more recent one was the social CEO. But bearing in mind my target client is trade associations, because I help them with their sort of corporate strategy and all manner of different services there. What I did is I interview over 40 CEOs within this community. Now, what was really fascinating about this is by interviewing all of these people and reaching out to them. So I'm not at that moment trying to sell them anything. I'm just saying I'm putting a paper together. I'd love to have you involved in it. The amount of people that are very happy to give me their time at CEO level was phenomenal. But of course, in that 1 hour Zoom, they are pretty much telling me anything and everything about their challenges, their issues, which is extremely good for the report, but it's highly valuable as a lead generation tool for me to understand what some of their issues and challenges are. So later down the line, of course, I would be having a conversation with them and saying, oh, thanks again for your amazing insights, really helpful. And I remember you were telling me about X, Y, Z, and I just wondered perhaps we could follow up on a meeting and talk about how we can help solve that problem. And so not only has it been a really great way of creating real thought leadership content, but it's actually been a really great idea to sell other services. Because I've been the author of that report, the acceptance for my second call to talk to them about my services has been pretty much like 80%. So that's been really good. And of course, when you start to see the report out in the marketplace and on my websites, other people can download that. So they start to see me as somebody that knows their stuff. And then I'm asked to write articles. So of course, when I call people, or actually a lot of the time people are calling me and said, "Oh, I saw your white paper on the COVID impact. It was really fascinating. We'd love to have a chat with you about," So I guess the answer to your question is the white paper research guide, if you will, is a great, even though it may be seen as a info swap initially, it generates loads of leads because of the credibility of you having written it and also you having interviewed some heavyweight people.
Yeah, you built a relationship with them, you provided value with them, and then establish credibility for yourself. I love it.
Absolutely. It's what I call the jab, jab, punch. It's effectively what you're doing is you're giving, then you're asking,
Yeah. Very
it's
effective.
The same
strategy.
approach. It's the same approach I say to people when you're working with influencers as well. People that just reach out to influencers cold. It's no surprise 65% of them don't respond because there's been no thought in the approach that they take.
Yeah, and that same strategy you're using to interview them for a white paper works really well with the podcast. A lot of people are using that same strategy. They have a podcast and they invite all of those CEOs or influencers or whoever they want to build relationships with onto their show.
Indeed.
Get a relationship with them, give them reach and exposure, and then it's a lot easier to do work with them going forward.
Bingo.
Yeah. That's one of the best reasons or biggest benefits of doing a podcast is the relationships you get with amazing people.
And it's so true, Nathan. My program is called the Connector Framework, and right in the center is my value statement to that framework. And it says, creating the connections that count. So it's not about just picking up a bunch of, people that anywhere and everywhere. It's actually creating the right type of people that count.
What do you feel is the biggest tectonic shift that is transforming the business landscape today?
So obviously from an influencer point of view, I think it's people marketing. I think the fact that once upon a time, the main advertising channels would be TV, radio, billboard, newspaper ads, magazine ads, now all of those revenues have been significantly dropping even before the pandemic. The pandemic has only accelerated that. Influencer marketing, on the other hand, has grown like phenomenally. I mean, in 2016, it was an industry worth around 1.6 billion. Now it's close to 15 billion in just that short period of time. And because we actually trust the opinions of friends, colleagues, other customers more than anything else. I mean, look at TripAdvisor, for example. We now go and before we go and book a hotel, we'll just check out. Before we go and buy something on Amazon, we'll just check out the reviews because we know that it's from other people. And lots of very successful influencers have been reviewers. They've got their own channels and they're product reviewers. And where we've managed to build up relationships with these individuals, and it really does fascinate me, because the ones that are really successful are just authentic storytellers. They help bring brands and products to life that actually brands don't do enough of a good job as it is. There's a great lady, I don't know if you've heard of her, called Super Blondie. She's an Australian model presenter, but she absolutely loves supercars. And, she's got this video crew with her, and she always is promoting these amazing limited edition just top of the range cars, Rolls Royce, Bentleys, Maseratis, all these amazing things with buttons with the doors going up and down and everything, all that really cool stuff. But what she does, she really enthuses. You feel like you're going on a journey with them. Another guy is the yacht guy. He does the same with super yachts. And that's what I think is fascinating about some of these content creators. They're bringing brands to life in a way that one-dimensional advertising never really did. I mean, how many times do you used to flick over a magazine or a newspaper or just go past a billboard? Now, with the it's all about the attention economy, isn't it? It's all about actually, how with so much noise, we've got so many brand messages coming to us every minute of the day. You've really got to stand out. And I think that's why some brands are using shock tactics. But I think it's a very good example of a great billboard advert. Actually, I've got to tell you this because I loved it. The beer Carlsberg. Do you know the beer Carlsberg?
Carlsberg? I don't know that.
Okay, all right. So it's a very big beer, actually originally from Denmark, and the billboard said probably the best lager. Probably the best billboard ad in the world, because what they'd done is they'd put a beer dispenser actually into the billboard, so it was actually having pints of beer, and there were queues of people along outside this billboard. And even if they just did that for once, what was really fascinating about this, it was then used as part of an influencer marketing campaign, advertising campaign, even though they'd only done one billboard ad, but because it was so powerful, it was shared in that way. So, yeah.
Free beer from a billboard. That's great.
Yeah.
Freemium advertising. Give away something and then sell something else. Thank you so much, Gordon, for sharing your stories and insights with us today. Here are some of my key takeaways from this episode. Number 1, membership sites and communities can help us stay connected with our customers while also providing an additional recurring revenue stream. Number 2, people come for content, but they stay for community. Number 3, membership sites and communities can help our business become global. Number 4, we should focus on what we do best and be a master of one rather than a jack of all trades. Number 5, interviewing our ideal customers for a book, research report, or a podcast can help us gain leads, build relationships, and build credibility. And number 6, influencers and content creators can help us bring our brand to life in a way that one-dimensional advertising never really did. You can learn more about or connect with Gordon on LinkedIn, on his podcast, or his book. And there's links to each of those in the blog post for this episode at monetizationnation.com. You can also get a free ebook about passion marketing and learn how to become a top priority of your ideal customers at passionmarketing.com. You can also subscribe for free to Monetization Nation on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, our Facebook group, and on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode, and I wish you success as you build your online communities and memberships. Do you want to become a better digital monetizer? To receive great monetization stories and secrets, please go to monetizationnation.com and join free. And if you liked today's episode, please subscribe to the show and share it.